Shalom, Israel. It's that time again. The ISUPK, under Commanding General Yahana, presents the Lord's 57th Annual Passover. That's right, the Lord's 57th Annual Passover, April 4th, 2026, in Houston, Texas. All Black, Hispanics, and Native Americans are commanded to observe the Lord's Passover. This will be the biggest Passover to date. You do not want to miss this. Fresh lamb, fresh wine, and bitter herbs as commanded by the Most High. Only $200 per person, ages 17 and up. The biggest event of the year. There is only one Passover, and it's under Commanding General Yahana. See you there, Israel. Shalom. Israel. It's that time again. The ISUPK, under Commanding General Yahana, presents the Lord's 57th Annual Passover. That's right, the Lord's 57th Annual Passover, April 4th, 2026, in Houston, Texas. All Black, Hispanics, and Native Americans are commanded to observe the Lord's Passover. This will be the biggest Passover to date. You do not want to miss this. Fresh lamb, fresh wine, and bitter herbs as commanded by the Most High. Only $200 per person, ages 17 and up. The biggest event of the year. There is only one Passover, and it's under Commanding General Yahana. See you there, Israel. Shalom.
Hey, Shalom, Israel. Shalom, Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Barakatham. To the brothers watching. Shalom, Yahweh Shemalatham by Shem Yahweh Shah. To the sisters watching, since ISUPK started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yahana. We teach the truth about the Bible, that so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and North American Indians are the chosen people of God, and our oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks of. Now you tuned in. Priest and Officer of 1,000, Howard Moore, ISUPK, Kentucky, under Commanding General Yahana. And tonight is our Monday night history class. Before we get started, I want to make sure that all Blacks, Hispanics, and North American Indians are tuning in. ISUPK Kentucky weekly content. All right, Monday night history class, every 9 p.m., Lord willing. Tuesday night brotherhood class, taught by Officer of 1,000, I'm a Wonka boy. And Wednesday night, the podcast, Cry Out, Spit It Out podcast, hosted by Officers of 1,000, I'm a Wonka boy and Asiapian. And coming here, two priests of the Lord break down all the viral videos going across the internet. All right, come and get your timeline broken down by two priests of the Lord in the UPK under Commanding General Yahana. And Saturday morning, you got the Sabbath service. So, Monday night history, Tuesday night brotherhood, Wednesday night the podcast, Saturday morning Sabbath service. Now tonight, we had a little bit of technical difficulty last week. So, we're going to continue kind of where we left off last week. And we're going to talk about Jesse Jackson. As we all heard, Jesse Jackson just passed recently. All right, Jesse Jackson just passed recently. So we're going to talk about Jesse Jackson, who he really was, where this whole African identity comes from, right? Why we celebrate things like Black History Month. And then we're going to get into what Blacks, Hispanics, and North American Indians are really supposed to be celebrating, all right, this time of year, which is the Feast of Purim, all right? So we're going to get into the real history of where this African label comes from, why we were called African. We're going to talk about Jesse Jackson and how he popularized the term, how he made it acceptable to the masses of people. And we finna talk about who Jesse Jackson really was. All right. And we're going to get into the Feast of Purim, what Blacks, Hispanics, and North American Indians are really supposed to be celebrating. All right. So let's work. And as usual, this is drop you only finna get in the UPK under Commander General Yohana. Now you can't talk this African talk. You can't talk this Pan-African ideology without talking about Marcus Garvey. Now I know y'all, anybody that's been paying attention to UPK Kentucky Monday history class, you've heard me talk about Marcus Garvey before. But if you haven't, man, y'all might get pissed off by this. All right. If you haven't heard me go into Marcus Garvey before, all right, this is probably something you're not going to want to hear. All right. This is probably something you're not going to want to hear. But Marcus Garvey, all right, this was a quote. This was a quote from Marcus Garvey to a Klansman named Ernest Severe Cox. All right. Marcus Garvey said, "The modern Negro is a lazy, good-for-nothing slumberer. And if something isn't done for him, he will die as other unfit races have." All right. He's quoting another white supremacist. This is almost a direct quote. From a book called The Descent of Man by Charles Darwin. All right. Marcus Garvey is quoting a white supremacist to another white supremacist. All right, this is what Marcus Garvey really felt about Black Americans. All right, the relationship between Marcus Garvey and Ernest Cox developed into a genuine friendship. In one of his books, Garvey presented a full-page ad promoting the book White America without charge. So Marcus Garvey is promoting a book by a known white supremacist. All right. Marcus Garvey is promoting a book about white supremacy written by a white supremacist. We got Marcus Garvey with another white supremacist in the picture. All right. This individual is known for changing birth certificates in Virginia. All right. The white supremacist he's in the photo with is known for changing people's birth certificates and birth records in the state of Virginia. All right, Marcus Garvey also said the Klan, the Anglo-Saxon clubs, and white American societies are a friend of Black people. All right, is this y'all's king? Is this the king of Pan-Africanism? If this is the king of Pan-Africanism, y'all can have it. If this is the king of Pan-Africanism, y'all can have it. Here's the problem, though. Back to Africa was not part of Garvey's plan. All right, Garvey said, "I have no desire to take Black people to Africa. There are Blacks who are no good here and will likewise be no good there." This is what Marcus Garvey truly felt about Black Americans. He said, "I have no desire to take Black people back to Africa. There are Blacks who are no good here and will likewise be no good there." Also, it's quite possible that Marcus Garvey was a descendant of Black European Jacobites. Now, if Garvey is the father of Pan-Africanism, then Elwood Wilmot Blyden, Slaki, if Marcus Garvey is the king of Pan-Africanism, then Blyden will be the father of it. Now he actually moved to Liberia in 1850, paid for by an organization called the American Colonization Society. We'll get to them in a minute. But he goes to Africa, a pastor, and he gets there and turns Muslim. All right, so the father of Pan-Africanism was a pastor. He moves to Africa and turns Muslim. Now, what does Islam at all have to do with the African identity? What does Islam have to do with black nationalism in the United States? What does Islam have to do with Africa or black folks in America? We'll talk about Islam here in a minute. All right, another pastor developed concepts of Pan-Africanism. It's a lot, man. Developed concepts of Pan-Africanism while at Cambridge, and he moved to Liberia to convert Africans to Christianity. Another question. What does Islam have to do with Africa? What does Islam have to do with black Americans? I'll ask it this way. What does Christianity have to do with Africa? What does Christianity have to do with black Americans? But you're going to see these early Pan-Africans were pastors and Masons. All right, all of your early Pan-Africans were pastors and Masons. Let's work. All right, Henry Sylvester Williams. He was the one that coined the term Pan-Africanism. He moved to England in 1897 to start the African Association. Now, why didn't he move to Ghana? Well, because Ghana didn't exist yet. Why didn't he move to Nigeria? Probably because Nigeria didn't exist yet. But he moved to England to start the African Association. And he marries a white woman, the daughter of a Freemason. So you're going to see this Masonic influence when you're dealing with Pan-Africanism. You're going to deal with this Masonic influence when you're dealing with this concept of being African. We'll get to that later too. Now this whole Back to Africa movement wasn't even started by black Americans. This Back to Africa movement was started by white abolitionists, mainly another pastor named Robert Finley. All right, he was one of the founders of the American Colonization Society, which established Liberia as a place for free black Americans. All right. And this was also the organization that paid for Edward Blyden. This was the organization that paid for Edward Blyden to move to Africa. But when he got to Liberia, he went and turned Muslim on y'all. He went to Africa on a white boy's dime, and he went and flipped Muslim on y'all. All right, the ACS was to address the view that free people of color could not integrate into U.S. society. White Americans believed that blacks were inferior and should be relocated. This is where this Back to Africa stuff comes from. This is where this Back to Africa ideology actually comes from. All right, this is the origin of Pan-Africanism. Started by white abolitionists and an organization called the American Colonization Society that believed that black Americans were inferior and should be relocated. And we'll talk about why later. All right, the first ship, the Elizabeth, February 6, 1820, for West Africa. Between 1821 and 1838, the American Colonization Society would develop the first settlement known as Liberia. Now, African Studies Association, founded in 1958, is a meeting point for all American scholars seriously interested in African affairs, and is now one of the most active organizations in the field. All right, African study in the United States started with the pioneering field work of Melville Herskovitz, a white Jewish man, and W.E.B. Du Bois to create a Pan-African movement. So, this Pan-African ideology picks up and it's pushed by a white Jewish man, Melville Herskovitz, and W.E.B. Du Bois to create a Pan-African movement. All right, 1968. All right, John Henry Clark joins in. All right, John Henry Clark joins the same organization that was led by a white Jewish man named Melville Herskovitz. And here he goes. All right, president of the ASA 1958. All right, the white Jewish father of African studies. All right, the white Jewish father of African studies. So, if you're a Pan-African today, you might want to thank your white Jewish daddy for it. All right, if you're into Pan-Africanism, if you're into Africa, if you're into Ghana, if you're into Egypt, all right, you might want to thank your white Jewish daddy for it. All right, president of the African Studies Association, 1958, known as the white Jewish father of African studies. Now, he wrote a book that claimed that Black Americans have an African culture. He wrote a book that claimed that Black Americans have African culture. Where? I don't see it. All right, we don't eat the same foods as them. We don't eat what they eat. We wear deodorant, they don't. They come over here musty with flip-flops on. Now, what does that got to do with us? They come here musty with flip-flops on. All right. We do not have the same culture as Africans do. We don't have the same culture at all as Africans do. But this is where you're going to start to see. This is where you're going to start to see this African ideology being put together. W.E.B. Du Bois. Now remember, he worked with Melville Herskovitz to push this Pan-African ideology. All right, he worked with Melville Herskovitz, all right, African Studies Association, to push Pan-Africanism. Now, he also worked for Margaret Sanger. All right, he was advisory counsel for Margaret Sanger's Negro Project. So his job in 1939, was to push abortions on Black Southerners. W.E.B. Du Bois worked for Margaret Sanger, and his job was to push abortions on Black Southerners. All right, this is who Du Bois really is. Now, Pan. We're talking about Pan-African. All right, what is Pan? All right, Pan is the Greek god of shepherds and flocks, with the upper body of a man and horns in the lower part of a goat. It says, the similarity to Pan, all see Pan. All right. led to his being regarded as a general personification of nature. So when it says see Pan, all right, all, every, whole, inclusive, from Greek pan, all right, Pan-Slavism, Pan-Islamic, Pan-American, Pan-German, Pan-African, all right? But this is who Pan really is. Now, I had to cut this short because I know y'all didn't want to see the rest of this image, all right? I know y'all didn't want to see the rest of this image, but this is what Pan is. So when somebody talks about being a Pan-African, you should know what Pan really is. All right, Pan is a Greek god. Now, this has been going around for as long as I can remember. All right, where the name Africa comes from. Now, we hear it all the time. People say that Africa was named after Leo Scipio Africanus. The problem is there's no such person as Leo Scipio Africanus. You have a Leo Africanus and you have a Scipio Africanus. All right. You have a Leo Africanus and you have a Scipio Africanus. But you have no historical person named Leo Scipio Africanus. All right. Leo Africanus born 1495. All right. Scipio Africanus born Publius Cornelius Scipio circa 235 BC. All right. This is your Roman general. The problem is he wasn't born with the name Africanus. All right, he was born Publius Cornelius Scipio, 235 BC. All right, he was given the title Africanus after Hannibal was defeated. And he was given the title Africanus in the area where Hannibal was defeated at. All right, Africanus was not his surname. It was a title given to him due to his military victories in Africa and his victory over Hannibal Barca of Carthage in the Second Punic War. So he was given the title Africanus because of his victories in Africa. So the name Africa doesn't come from Africanus. All right, it was not his surname. It was a title given to him. So where does Africa really come from? All right, Africa comes from the word Afar. All right, Africa comes from the word Afar. All right, the earliest inhabitants of Tunis were cave dwellers. Herodotus in his second book describes the customs and country of these troglodytes. Now, the principal part of this cave dwell chain is called the Jebel Ephraim, of the tribe of Ephraim, who inhabited. Right, according to the Berber historian, this tribe dwelt there from time immemorial. According to the Berber historian, this tribe dwelt there from time immemorial, and he mentions that they derived their name from the Berber word Ifri, which means cave. All right, so Africa means cave dweller. It is clear that Afar is merely a Latinized form of the Libyan equivalent Ephraim, that is cave dwellers. So Africa means cave dweller. We read about what Pan was. Pan is a Greek god with the face of a man and the body of a goat. And Africa means cave dweller. Do you still want to be Pan-African? If Pan is a Greek god with the body of a goat and Africa means cave dweller, do you still want to be a Pan-African? If Africa means cave dweller, do you still want to be African American? Or should African American die with Jesse Jackson? Let's work. All right, Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negro, but the Egyptian, Ethiopian, Libyan, and Canaanite. We just read that Africa is a Libyan word that means cave dweller. So Ham is the forefather of the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, the Libyans, and the Canaanites, but not black people. All right, black Americans have nothing to do with Ham, nothing to do with Egyptians, nothing to do with Ethiopians, Libyans, or Canaanites. All right, blacks, Hispanics, and North American Indians are the real Jews, are the real Israelites, and we have nothing to do with Africans at all. We'll take it a step further. All right, Choctaw Advocate. All right, Choctaw Advocate. July 24, 1902. All right, the Negro is not an African. All right, Choctaw Advocate. Wednesday, July 24, 1902. The Negro is not an African. All right, black people are not Africans. All right, black people are the Israelites of the Bible and have nothing to do with Africans at all. But as you can see, this African ideology, this African identity was brought in by pastors, Masons, and white Jewish people. Pastors, Masons, and white Jewish people. And every few decades or so, it's a different part of Africa that for some reason we get into. All right, back in the 90s, it was South Africa. In the early 2000s, it was Egypt. Back in the early 1900s, it was Ethiopia. Now it's Ghana. For some reason, Ghana's coming through the damn walls right now. You have people like Umar Johnson, an alleged dope fiend, just trying to get citizenship in Ghana. And trying to get us to get dual citizenship in Ghana. And he's an alleged dope fiend. Here's the problem with Ghana, though. The United States provides law enforcement training to Ghana through the International Law Enforcement Academy program. The United States provides law enforcement training to Ghana. So you can move to Ghana if you want to. But the same way the police do us here is the same way the police is going to do us over there. The same way the police did Sandra Bland right here is the same thing they're going to do to us over there in Ghana. Because the United States provides Ghana with law enforcement training. And this is drop you can't get nowhere else. Nowhere else besides the ISUPK and the Commander General Yohana. And we don't know any of this. We don't know any of this because our history is given to us by our open enemy. The history that we read, the history we're given in school, is given to us by our enemy. All right, McGraw-Hill. This is one of the largest providers of textbooks in America. See, we don't know any of this history because the history that we learn is given to us by our enemy. McGraw-Hill, one of the largest providers of textbooks in America. October 2015, McGraw-Hill accused of whitewashing history. This is why we don't know any of this. 2015, McGraw-Hill accused of whitewashing history. All right, 1968, a CIA document available in the Freedom of Information Act confirms that Edward E. Boer was named chairman of McGraw-Hill Book Company. Why does the chairman of McGraw-Hill, one of the largest textbook companies in America, why does the chairman of McGraw-Hill have a relationship with the CIA? Tell me why the chairman of the largest textbook company in America has a relationship with the CIA. I need somebody to answer this one for me. The company responsible for teaching us our history in school, McGraw-Hill Textbook Company, 1968, the chairman has a relationship with the CIA. Now, one of the first people to start using this African identity was Prince Hall. All right, started the African Lodge, 1784. Again, we're going to see pastors, Masons, and white Jewish people push Pan-Africanism. Pastors, Masons, and white Jewish people is putting this Pan-African ideology together. Prince Hall had a white father, Thomas Prince Hall, an Englishman, and his mother was a free colored woman from France. So Prince Hall, the founder of the African Lodge, Prince Hall Freemasonry, had a white father and a black mother from France. Now, he later became a minister in the AME Church. All right, Prince Hall, one of the first people you see use this African ideology, had a white father and a black mother from France. He gets involved with the AME Church. Now, the founders of the AME Church, Richard Allen, James Fort, and Absalom Jones, are also three of your known Black American founding fathers. All right. Anybody watching, did you know that America had Black founding fathers too? How can you be a founding father if you're not a damn colonizer? If you don't think there wasn't Black colonizers too, if you didn't know there were Black colonizers too, that just further proves that we've been indoctrinated and we've been taught history by our enemies. This right here, if you don't know this, this just proves what I said about McGraw-Hill and whitewashing history. All right, these are three of America's Black founding fathers: Richard Allen, James Fortin, and Absalom Jones. Now, they started the AME Church. Now, January 15th, 1817, they called a meeting to discuss the American Colonization Society. We read about them at the beginning of class. These were white abolitionists that were trying to get Black people to leave America. White abolitionists were trying to get Black people to leave America and move to Liberia. What did they do? They got three Black men, three Black founding fathers, pastors in the AME Church to try to convince Black people to move to Africa. But it didn't work. It didn't work. Again, the American Colonization Society, this whole Back to Africa movement, was started by white abolitionists that believed Black people were inferior and should move. They got 3 black pastors in the AME church who were also 3 of America's black founding fathers to convince us to leave. Now, fast forward to the 1980s, African American favored by many American blacks. All right, African American favored by many American blacks. All right, a movement led by Reverend Jesse Jackson, again with these goddamn pastors, Masons, and white Jewish folks. All right, a movement led by Reverend Jesse Jackson to call blacks African Americans. New York Times, 1989. All right, always these pastors, white Jewish people, and Masons. All right, Reverend Jesse Jackson was a 33rd degree Prince Hall Freemason. So he belonged to the same organization, the same African lodge that was started by Prince Hall. So he's just pushing the work of Prince Hall Freemasonry. He's just pushing the work of the African lodge started by Prince Hall. And again, Prince Hall was hooked up with the AME Church through Richard Allen, James Fortin, Absalom Jones. 3 black founding fathers who also tried to convince black Americans to move to Africa. Always your pastors, white Jewish people, and Freemasons that put this African ideology together. That put this Pan-African ideology together. But Jesse Jackson was born Jesse Lewis Burns, the son of Helen Burns. She never married his father, Noah Lewis Robinson. Now, Noah Lewis Robinson's ancestry includes Cherokee and Irish. All right, this was Jesse Jackson's father. Now, Robinson is one of the most common names in Ireland. So you have his father, Noah Lewis Robinson, and his grandfather, Reverend, another damn pastor, J.A. Robinson. Now that Robinson name is where their Irish lineage is going to come in. Now, if you go to his great-grandparents, all right, his great-grandmother was Harriet Robinson. This is where that Irish side is going to come in. All right, his great-grandmother on his father's side, Harriet Robinson, is where this Irish side is going to come in. This is where your Irish lineage is going to come from. But his great-grandfather, Jackson Christie, and his second great-grandfather, Jesse Christie, were Cherokee. All right, Jesse Jackson's second great-grandfather on his father's side, Jesse Christie, was Cherokee. Along with the son of Jesse Christie, Jackson Christie. All right, home in 1900, Cherokee Nation, Indian Territory. So Jesse Jackson has a Cherokee paternal lineage. If Jesse Jackson has a Cherokee paternal lineage, what is all this African talk? If Jesse Jackson has a Cherokee paternal lineage, what is all this African talk? I need somebody to answer this for me. The person that led a movement, the pastor, the Freemason, that led a movement to call us African American, has a Cherokee paternal lineage. Somebody needs to make that make sense. Somebody needs to make that make sense. So all of these philosophies are nonsense. Pan-Africanism started by pastors, Freemasons, and white Jewish people. Pastors, Freemasons, and white Jewish people. And like I said, every few decades, we just pick a different part of Africa to gravitate towards. Early 1900s, it was Ethiopia. In the 90s, it was South Africa. Now it's Ghana. Early 2000s, it was Egypt. And we don't have anything to do with any of it. We don't have a damn thing to do with any of these ideologies and any of these philosophies. All right, the Panthers, something else that was a failure. Something else that was a complete failure. That had more deviance in a little bit. Had more deviance in a little bit. Had sex with more white women in a little bit. Had more gays and lesbians in a little bit. Another philosophy that's a failure. Oh, the Christian church. The Christian church. If you're a Christian, you have the same God, you pray to the same God that the Klan does. If you're a Christian, you pray to the same God that the Klan does. How do you reconcile that? Islam. Oh my God. Is it still Ramadan? Anybody know? Is it still Ramadan? We read earlier how Edward Blyden, the father of Pan-Africanism, moved to Africa. He moved to Africa on the white boy's money from the American Colonization Society. He moved to Liberia and turns Muslim. And said that Islam would promote black nationalism and black radicalism. In Christianity, if you're a Christian, you worship the same God as the Klan. If you're a Muslim, you worship a damn rock. I mean, literally, if you're a Muslim, you worship a rock. Now, let's forget for a moment that Muhammad was more than likely a white Arab. Let's forget for a moment that the prophet of Islam, the so-called fake prophet of Islam, might have been a white Arab. When you are a Muslim, you literally worship a rock. Here he is. Here's Allah, a damn rock. All right, the goddess of the ancient Arabs in pre-Islamic times, associated with the god Dushara, known as Allah. See, Allah is just a generic word. Allah just means the God. It's a generic term, but it's not his name. All right, the Arab God, the Arab supreme God, his name has always been Dushara. Worshipped in the form of a rectangular stone, reminiscent of the later Kaaba in Mecca. So when you worship Islam, your God is literally a rock. All right, you literally worship a rock. And again, Allah is just a generic term. It's a generic title. But the name of the God has always been Dushara. But Dushara is just the Arab version of Zeus. All right, Allah or Dushara is the Arab version of Zeus. Nothing about this has anything to do with black people, Hispanics, or North American Indians. None of this at all. None of these philosophies at all. And don't get me started with these fake Israelite groups. Don't get me started with these fake Israelite groups that want you to leave here and want you to move to Israel when white folks run it right now. Why would you want to move to a goddamn deserted wasteland that white people run? And then it's going to make you a second-class citizen in. You're going to move to a damn dust bowl that white people run? I'm going to pass on that. These guys are just as bad. These guys are just as bad. All right, FBA, this whole movement might be Masonic too. I mean, anybody that got eyes can see. And voting. You think voting is going to help? You think it's being a good American? You think being a good American is going to help? Look how crazy politics is. On the left, you got Ben Shapiro, white Jewish man, conservative. On the right, you got neo-Nazis and good old boys. They have the same political affiliation. This is how crazy politics is. This is why politics isn't going to save you either. You think being a Democrat is going to save you? Look at the damn Democratic Party. All right, Big Mama is politically affiliated with these crazy people on the left. Big Mama on the right is politically aligned with these crazy people on the left. So none of these philosophies, Pan-Africanism, Egyptology, Christianity, Islam, even being a good American and voting, none of it's going to work. None of it's going to work. And this is why Pan-Africanism pushed you into looking toward Africa. This is why Pan-Africanism wanted you to focus on Africa. This is why people today like Umar Johnson, an alleged dope fiend, is trying to get you to look at Ghana. All right, scholars estimate as many as 400,000 Black Americans left the South between 1916 and 1918. By 1924, Philadelphia had the nation's second largest urban Black population. The AME Church. We talked about the AME Church. We talked about the three Black founding fathers, three of America's Black founding fathers, their relationship to the AME Church. We talked about the African Lodge and Prince Hall's relationship to the AME Church. We talked about how they worked with white abolitionists and the American Colonization Society to try to convince Black people to leave and move to Africa. And again, it's still going on today with people like Umar Johnson trying to get you to move to Ghana. This is what it was all about. 1910, Black Americans owned at least 15 million acres of farmland in the South. All right. It's a little off. It was closer to 20 million acres of farmland. But in 1910, Black Americans owned at least 15 million acres of farmland in the South. Today, we own only 1 million acres of farmland. All right. The idea was to always get you to look somewhere else. The idea was always to get you to look towards somewhere else. Islam got you looking at Arabia. Pan-Africanism got you looking toward Ghana and Egypt and whatever. All right, Christianity's got you loving white folks. But the whole idea was to get you away from this. 1910, Black Americans owned at least 15 million acres of farmland in the South. Today, we own only 1 million acres of farmland. Again, this was the whole idea of getting you to look elsewhere. But let's see what the Bible says. First Ezra 8:85. Moreover, ye shall never seek to have peace with them, that ye may be strong and eat the good things of the land, that ye may leave the inheritance of the land unto your children forevermore. But what did we do? What did these pastors and masons convince us to do? These pastors and masons convinced us through the civil rights movement not only to make peace with our enemies, but to integrate into our enemy society. See, we always had our own society here. We always had our own society here. But the civil rights movement convinced us to integrate into the society of our enemies. The Bible says, never seek to have peace with them. Martin Luther King Jr. of Ebenezer Baptist Church convinced us not only to have peace, but to integrate. And that's why we don't have an inheritance to leave unto our children. That's why we don't have an inheritance to leave unto our children. This is what the Christian church taught us to do. Islam got you looking toward Arabia. Pan-Africanism got you looking toward Ghana, Egypt, and wherever else them people are. But this is why we're weak and we don't have an inheritance to leave unto our children. Hell, most of us only have debt to leave to our children. All right, let's drop that. All right, let's drop that. Go to Jeremiah 23:1. Jeremiah 23:1 says, woe be unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture, saith the Lord. The Bible says, woe be unto the pastors. We just read that Pan-Africanism and this whole African ideology in general was pushed by Masons, white Jewish people, and pastors. All right, let's drop that. Let's go to the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 19. Habakkuk 2:19. Woe unto him that saith to the wood, awake, to the dumb stone, arise. It shall teach. Behold, it is laid over with gold and silver, and there is no breath at all in the midst of it. Right? When it's talking about the wood, it's talking about that Christian cross. When it's talking about that dumb stone, it's talking about Allah. All right? It's talking about Allah. It's talking about that damn Kaaba stone in Mecca that's laid over with gold and silver. That those people trample each other damn near half to death to try to touch and kiss some damn rock. And the Bible says there is no breath at all in the midst of it. There's no breath at all in the midst of it. All right, so let's drop that. Let's go to Ecclesiastes 12:13. Ecclesiastes 12:13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. All right, all of these other philosophies, the reason that they fail is because they're not keeping the commandments. All right, black Muslims sell more dope than a little bit, but draw the line at a pork chop sandwich. Black Christians worship the same God that the Klan does. Pan-Africans got you, I don't know what Pan-Africans got you doing. Worshiping Amen Ra or some African god. Aten or Amen Ra or Tutan, whatever. Got you not wearing deodorant. All right. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. So now, to end it, we just had Black History Month. We just had Black History Month. And I said earlier, maybe we should let African American die right along with Jesse Jackson. Maybe we should let this whole African identity die right along with Jesse Jackson. All right. Let's throw all of this Pan-Africanism in the garbage. Let's throw Pan-Africanism in the garbage. Let's throw African American in the garbage. Let's throw this whole African identity in the garbage right where it belongs. Let's throw this whole African ideology, this whole African identity, and let's throw that in the grave right with Jesse Jackson. And let's get into our real culture. All right. Let's get into the story of Purim to end the class. Let's go to the book of Esther, chapter 7, verse 1. So the king and Haman came to banquet with Esther the queen. Now this king in the story was a Persian king. Now Haman, we're going to read about in a minute. All right, Haman would be what you would call a white Jewish person today. All right, so the king in the story is a Persian. And at this time in history, we were in captivity under the Persian Empire. Just like we're in captivity in America today. Again, Haman would be known as a white Jewish man today. And Esther the queen was the Israelite. All right, verse 2. And the king said again unto Esther, on the second day at the banquet of wine, what is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed, even to the half of the kingdom. Verse 3. Then Esther the queen answered and said, if I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given to me at my petition, and my people at my request. Now again, at this time, the Israelites, which today would be Blacks, Hispanics, and North American Indians, we were in captivity under the Persians. We were in captivity under the Persians. Verse 4. For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage. It says we were destroyed. It's like it says we were sold. We were sold, destroyed, slain, to perish, and sold for bondmen and bondwomen. Now, who does this sound like? All right, we have been in captivity after captivity after captivity. Just like we were in captivity to the Persians at this time, just like we're in captivity in America today. All right. Verse 5. Then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, who is he? And where is he that durst presume in his heart to do so? Verse 6. And Esther said, the adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman. Then Haman was afraid before the king and queen. All right, so Esther, when Esther called Haman the adversary, and again, Haman today, if he was around today, he would be considered a white Jewish man. All right. Now, adversary is the same word as what? All right. Adversary is the devil. So Esther is calling this white Jewish man the adversary or the devil and the enemy and the wicked. So if Esther understood this in captivity back then, how come we don't understand it today? Why don't we understand that white folks are the devil that the Bible speaks of? They're also the wicked. The Bible says the earth is given into the hands of the wicked and our enemy. Esther understood this in captivity back then. And the only ones that understand this in captivity today is the ISUPK and the Commander General Yohana. Verse 10. So they hanged him. They hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then the king's wrath was pacified. So the enemy of the Israelites was hanged. The devil, the adversary, the wicked, the enemy of black people, at this time was hanged on the gallows. All right, let's drop that. Let's go to chapter 8 and verse 3. And Esther spake yet again before the king and fell down at his feet and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman, the Agagite, and his device that he had devised against the Jews. It says she fell at his feet and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman, the Agagite. All right. The Agagite or the Agagites are the descendants of Slacky. All right, the Agagites are a tribe of Edom, or a tribe of Esau. All right, and Esau is the so-called white man. All right, and Haman would be, again, if he was around today, would be a so-called white Jewish man. And when it's talking about the Jews, all right, when it's talking about the Jews, it's talking about the Israelites or the ancestors of Blacks, Hispanics, and North American Indians. All right. Drop that down to verse 13. The copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, that the Jews should be ready against that day to avenge themselves against their enemies. Now, we just read earlier, the whole duty of man is to keep the commandments. The whole duty of man is to keep the commandments. He finna get one in a minute. All right, let's drop that. Let's go to Esther 9 and 5. Thus the Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and slaughter and destruction, and did what they would unto those that hated them. All right, the Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and slaughter and destruction, and did what they would unto those that hated them. They didn't integrate with the people that hated them. They didn't integrate with the people that hated them. All right, let's drop that down to verse 20. And Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters unto all the Jews that were in all the provinces of King Assyrius, both nigh and far. Verse 21. To establish this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month of Adar, and the 15th day of the same yearly. Now, in today's time and today's calendars, it would be today and tomorrow. All right, according to the Gregorian calendar we use today, this would correlate to today and tomorrow. And we're supposed to keep this yearly. All right, let's drop that down to 9 and 24. Because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had devised against the Jews to destroy them and had cast pur, that is the lot to consume them and to destroy them. All right, so Haman, the Agagite, all right, the Edomite, all right, called the devil and the enemy and the wicked, it said had devised against the Jews to destroy them and cast pur, that is the lot to consume them and to destroy them. Verse 26. Wherefore they called these days Purim, after the name Pur. Therefore all the words of this letter and of that which they had seen concerning this matter and which had come unto them. This is going to be a commandment for us to remember these 2 days. Remember these 2 days that our enemies were destroyed. Remember the day that our enemies were destroyed, that the people that hated us were put to the sword, and Haman, the white devil, was hanged on the gallows. All right, so with that, we're going to go ahead and end it. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me, man, soaking up some of this game. All right, every Monday, 9 p.m., Lord willing. Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Wednesday night, the podcast. Saturday morning, Sabbath service. And if y'all ain't got my book, Hidden American Indian Contributions to Civilization, I'm going to be having copies at the Passover. All right, I will have copies, limited copies at the Passover. All right, so with that, we'll do one courtesy salute. Shalom. Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai Barakathon. Yahweh Shemalathon B'Shem Yahweh Shai. With that, dismiss.
On the table.
I ain't finna tell y'all how I got away with this shit.
If I'm more right, that's good business. She look good, but hang with dumb bitches. Tell her I'm way too fly for one sister. And if she leave a priest, I won't miss her. Won't put a ring around it. Oh, no. Bitches for the street like basketball goals. I always knew she'd let that lane hit her. Won't get a cent from me, I ain't simple. Bitch, now I ain't gon' work it out. I ain't regular out. Now I ain't gon' work it out. I ain't regular out. You a civilian out. Nah, I'll fail out. I ain't gon' work it out. Cause I ain't regular out. I ain't regular out. You's a regular out. Took that bitch back. And she done fed you out. Look how you living out. You look scary out. Can't fuck that bitch right. Cause she be getting nailed out. You won't forgive her, ain't it? You wanna love her, don't you? Just know that love ain't for you. It's for the world, homie. I got some real homies. We don't pretend, homie. ISUPK, 1 West, we kicking field goals. Let that bitch lead, ho. She got them D's, though. With a little snake and ass pussy, she be going beast mode. She HIV, ho. You a dirty ass skeet, ho. Don't get that shit up out your chest, bitch. Say what you gonna do now, what you gonna say now, what you gonna do to me. That is UPK, I'm shot 2D.
I ain't simple, bitch. Nah, I ain't gon' work it out. I ain't regular, no, I ain't gon' work it out. I ain't regular, you civilian, nah, failure, I ain't gon' work it out, cause I ain't regular, I get paper, bro. Got my standards up, you a munchkin, catching these, check my favorite out. I'm a player, these niggas top block, take your lead out. You shouldn't be worried about these broke ass bitches, and don't compare yourself to simp ass niggas, Had to shine a lot of these desperate ass women, cause they be tripping hard, acting like they different, But a bit be basic, bit be horn and bit be naked, drinking, faking, stankin', the shame is dirty, mouth bit be vaping. I don't get too fucks about you, I wouldn't have put no baby in you. Bit be saying they got that paper, look, that neck be itchy. Done caught the penalty and my energy got me feeling me. Ice hitting on them, these diamond teeth that's into me. And I'm getting right and I'm stacking up and I'm getting to it. And these niggas hate but they can't touch cause I'm bulletproof. If I'm more right, that's good business. She look good but hang with dumb bitches. Tell her I'm way too fly for one sister. And if she leave a piece, I won't miss her. I'ma put a ring around it. Oh, no. Bitches for the street like basketball goes. I always knew she'd let that lane hit her. Won't get a cent from me, I ain't simple, bitch. Nah, I ain't gon' work it out. I ain't regular, nah, I ain't gon' work it out. I ain't regular, you civilian, nah, failure, I ain't gon' work it out, cause I ain't regular,